What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Shelf, and today we are talking about the new film Hell of a Summer, directed by Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brick. Just a heads up, guys, this will be a spoiler-free review, so if you're just kind of looking to get my general thoughts, then you are in the right place. So just to give you guys a point of reference, I'm a really big camp slasher fan. I love all of the Friday the 13th films, I love The Burning, I love Sleepaway Camp, etc. So when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was a little skeptical. I really didn't know what to expect from a camp slasher film directed by Finn Wolfhard and this guy Billy Brick, who I really didn't know that well. Based on the trailer that I did watch, because I haven't been watching most trailers lately, but I felt like I was okay to watch this one. I don't know, it's all very arbitrary, but regardless. So I watched the trailer for this movie, and I wasn't really sure, what to expect. It didn't really blow me away. It looked really, ironic. So I just kind of bristled at that a little bit because it felt like they were kind of using camp slashers as a vehicle to kind of do their ironic teen comedy. I don't know. So I wasn't really sure about this, but I was like, you know what? Let me keep an open mind. Let me go see it. It could be good. And I'll be damned if this thing didn't surprise the hell out of me. I really enjoyed this movie. Getting into the things that I liked, starting out with all the technical aspects, this movie is shot really well. It's got a very distinct style to it. It's also edited really well. It's got some really cool transitions. And the music is also really good. The soundtrack as well as the score, the original score. The original score in particular I was really impressed with. It really was channeling those camp slasher vibes. It felt kind of synthy a little bit, but not really. There was like hints of it, but it was more like impending dread, so I really appreciated it for that. One big thing that every camp slasher really needs to get right in my eyes is capture the ambiance and the atmosphere of being at camp. And this movie really does that well. Through the filmmaking and the editing and the cinematography, like I mentioned, they really are able to capture the spirit of the camp. And you really do kind of feel like you're there. This movie is also pretty funny. I laughed out loud a good amount of times. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to buy into like the Zoomer jokes and the sensibilities of that, but this movie doesn't really have any of that. It feels, pretty timeless, I would say. It's not really rooted in, any sort of one time period. The jokes are pretty evergreen. Obviously, it is set in the modern day, but it works on that level. I was actually impressed by a lot of the running gags in the movie. There's a couple jokes that persist throughout the movie, and they're constantly being brought up again and reminded of, and I just thought it was really funny the way that they kept, hammering these jokes down, and instead of kind of getting old, it actually does the opposite, and it just continues to make it funnier. There's also some payoffs as well that you're like, oh, that's nice, that's cool, I like that. There's a couple of Friday the 13th homages, which I did appreciate, and they felt, sort of obligatory, but they're actually worked into the plot in a nice way, which I've, really appreciated that as well. The big thing that I didn't really like about this movie was the killer reveal. Killer reveal almost brought this movie down for me. It still kind of does, but I wasn't so bothered by it because this movie is not necessarily rooted too much in reality. It sort of is, but because of the nature of the comedy and the comedic elements, it's not really something where, you're thinking too critically about that sort of thing. So I was willing to forgive it, but that being said, it didn't really work for me. I'll just say that the problem with slashers and the reveal is that a lot of times it's really hard to strike that balance of being able to lay a trail of breadcrumbs and clues so that the audience can figure it out, but also not having it be too obvious. It's very difficult to do, and it takes really, really clever writing, and oftentimes you just don't get that. There's nothing prior to the reveal that would lead you to believe that this person would do this for this reason. So I was a little disappointed by that, but it didn't really ruin the movie for me. The cast of characters are all pretty diverse. They all kind of get a little moment to shine, a nice comedic moment. They all sort of represent different archetypes, which is pretty, classic in a slasher movie. I pretty much enjoyed them all. There was nobody that I really, didn't care for. The characters that you want to see die, die, and the ones that you want to see triumph, triumph. And, certain characters start out pretty unlikable, and then they end the movie being your favorite character, at least with me. So my big takeaway from this movie is just not only the movie itself, but how important it is to be able to maintain a neutral outlook going into something, despite whatever preconceived notions you might have about it. It really pays to not watch any reviews, don't make up opinions about something beforehand, and just go into something willing to give it a shot, and you'll be surprised, you know, how often that'll pay off for you. I almost wish I hadn't even watched the trailer for this. I wrote it off so that I was like, I don't care, I'll watch the trailer. It's probably not going to be good. The movies that I do think are going to be good, I tend not to watch the trailers for. So, you know, I think I need to just stop watching all trailers in general, but, you know, that's besides the point. If you like camp slasher films, if you just like slasher films, if you like a good comedy, because I will say this is more comedy than it is a slasher film. It's a horror comedy, I guess you could say. But the slasher components are sort of not as much of a focus as the character stuff, which was actually kind of refreshing. Usually in camp slasher films, especially from the 80s, the characters are just kind of a means to an end. You know, you're there to see them get killed, and they don't really have an arc or anything like that. These characters are actually written really well, and some of them have arcs, and it's nice, and you're actually invested in them, and you know, you really grow to care for them. Again, not all of them, the main ones, the important ones. Some of them are here just to get killed, and that's totally fine. It's actually a big group of kids. I think it's like 10 kids or something. So yeah, if you're curious about Hell of a Summer, I would say go give it a shot. This movie was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time with it. And it's one of those rare instances where my preconceived notions about it were totally wrong. That's not to say that I'm always right, but I generally have a good sense of what I think I'm about to be getting into with any given movie. And I mostly knew what I was getting into with this, but I severely underestimated how funny it would be and how much fun it would be just in general. So yeah, hats off to Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brick. This was an awesome debut from them. I hope they play in the horror comedy sandbox some more, but I also wouldn't be upset to see them kind of branch out and try some different things. So yeah, if you've seen Hell of a Summer, please let me know what you thought of it. Let me know down in the comments. I'm very curious to hear what other people are thinking about this. So yeah, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, physical media, and horror in general. So with all that being said, please take care and watch more movies.